Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And after yesterday's matches, some players certainly weren't particularly happy with the results. Crimsix especially. We're going to talk about Kenny as well and some of his reactions to the FaZe series. Not too much you can do, I suppose, when FaZe were playing like that though. But intrigued to get your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, I thought we would look at the CDL point standings as it stands at the present time. The bottom four in a tough spot. Realistically, they have to pull off a miracle to actually get to top 8 right here, especially Seattle Surge now 100 points behind that 8th place team. So FeLo is really stretching their advantage away from this bottom 4. Seems like a relatively clear-cut top 8 that are going to be going to the World Championship. On the other side of things, FaZe are here at 26 in 4. Like, this is just ridiculous. 380 CDL points, far and away above the other teams in the league. Technically, they still, well, obviously they qualify for the World Championship now, but technically, I guess they still couldn't get first place if they started to lose series, but that number 1 seeding for champs is probably going to be pretty important indeed. I think I saw some stat yesterday, the fact that FaZe have got more 3-0 sweeps so far this season. They've got 11 3-0 sweeps than Paris and Seattle have series wins combined. That is remarkable stuff. And we talked about it a few days ago, the fact that, well, Atlanta FaZe could potentially catch up Seattle Surge's map win numbers if they win a couple of series pretty convincingly. They're now in 26 match wins compared to 29 map wins for Seattle Surge. Pretty insane stuff from the Atlanta FaZe guys at the present time. And this I just thought I would talk about real quick, because I remember early in the season, a lot of discussion was about the whole coin flip league, the fact that, okay, yeah, you can't predict these matches, especially after FaZe lost to Los Angeles Guerrillas. People were talking about it, which was kind of confusing to me, because at the time FaZe were 11 series in a row, a hot streak at the start of the season, so all kind of confusing. But look, now we see this league and it's very clear that some teams are in a tough spot, and I'm pretty sure I did the calculations yesterday just for the fun of it. The fact that Seattle have lost, I think, 10 series in a row now, the chance of that happening, if it was just pure chance, is 0.1%. So is it a 1 in 1,000 situation for Surge, or are they just in a tough spot right now? So that was the discussion at the start of the season. It's nice to see, to be honest, that a skill gap still exists in Call of Duty, and you know, some teams are certainly pressing their advantage. And if I'm another team right now looking at Atlanta FaZe, I'm thinking, wow, I really have to step up my game individually and as a team if I want to have any chance of taking these guys down at a major or at the World Championship. The only team that's managed to do so far in an important event has been Toronto Ultra, where they played phenomenal Call of Duty at Stage 2. I'm not really sure who's going to be the next team to manage to take down FaZe. Hopefully it'll happen for the rest of the season. It's nice to see, at the very least, some competition. Thought I'd talk about this then. So yesterday we see this 1 versus 1 that comes out. Kenny, of course, kind of smiling after getting gunned here by aBeZy in this very final round. And this is an interesting gunfight. This is what aBeZy tends to do, right? This is like classic aBeZy stuff. You see a situation like this where aBeZy's in a position where he could run out and CHaLy, or he could sit in a corner. What's he going to do? He's going to fly around the corner. He's going to take the gunfight. He wins it on to Kenny. This actually was a pretty important round, right? Because LA Thieves actually had a good round here to bring this kind of back in this raid control. And then it's aBeZy versus Kenny in a 1v1. Beautiful stuff, really in control when it does come down to these types of situations. aBeZy messes up his nade, gets shot a little bit right in, then flies around the corner against Kenny, takes the gunfight, gets the headshot multiplier, gets the job done to close out the series. And Kenny did have an interesting tweet about the matter. We lost 3-0. That last gunfight was questionable, but it is what it is. So interesting really from Kenny. I think when I first saw this, I kind of thought maybe he was talking about like the way I played it was questionable, but now I'm kind of looking at it, I think some people were looking at maybe he's talking about the fact that the way aBeZy won the gunfight, the fact that he can just fly around that corner against a Krig and will take the gunfight like that and make it work is a little bit questionable. Maybe saying that on a LAN environment or something, that may not exactly be the case, but certainly we need to get better, as Kenny does indeed say. Let's talk about Crimsix's reaction then to this New York series, because if you're the Dallas Empire, this is not a series you want to lose. You've obviously dropped Clayster last season. They looked much better this series, there's no doubt about it, but at the same time, New York have been going through an array of issues, to be honest, right? Like, Hydra is clearly very unwell at the present time. You've got the CMF and all these issues. I think he also said his controller broke or whatever earlier on. So, you know, there's a number of different reasons why New York aren't necessarily at their peak performance right now. And despite Dallas Empire looking good, they really threw away some of the maps in this series that they had a great opportunity of closing out. And if you're Crimsix, right, and if you're Dallas Empire more generally, every time you lose to Clayster, it's just a tough time, right, knowing that I suppose you could have kept him last season, and he's always the guy who gets thrown to the wolves and comes back leading the pack most sadly. And well, as Parasite says right here, there was a couple of moments in this map, as he says, pure laziness and negligence on Empire's part, allowing them to come back into that rushing thing straight up lazy. Now, Crimsix has a slightly different perspective here in terms of how some of these spawns are working out. We'll look at it in a second. As Hangy says as well, what did I just watch? Fair play to New York, but like, what is that about? That's not even the worst part, but yet unacceptable that Hydra managed to sneak through like that to help complete the comeback for New York on that Garrison hard point. But yeah, the two pieces are, Parasite's talking about as well, letting things happen that shouldn't necessarily happen. Of course, it goes all the way down to the wire. They lose in a Game 5 situation where they're up a 3-0 advantage again in the Game 5. So many maps here that Empire had a great opportunity to close out, and it's a really tough one for them to lose, given that if they'd have won this, they'd have them in a really great spot to get through to the winners bracket for the major. But right now they sit in 4th in their group. They're going to have to beat Florida and maybe hope some things go their way to actually qualify for the winners bracket. So, you know, regardless of how things go, it's not ideal for Empire, right? And you're going back to land for the first time. You want to start in winners, right? Because starting from losers is just pretty much demoralizing, right? So I'll share the clip on screen for you guys real quick of when Crimsix reacts to the initial defeat, throws his headset down, clearly very frustrated, the fact that they had an advantage in so many of these maps and still managed to throw away the series and lose. And then we'll talk about what he has to say about some of the spawns.
A team call comes in, he pounces 4v2 to close out this best of 5. It's all on Crim and ILLey. ILLey able to take down one. Trade on point. It's all down to Crimsix. "30 seconds to go. Crim spotted. Crim's finish. Subliners take the map 5. And they were down, what, 0-3 to start this out?
Yeah. Won 4 rounds in a row.
Woo! What a series it was. It was a long one. See Clay showing the ice, but man, clearly, I mean, I think we saw Clay coughing, Hydra under the weather.
There was some discussion on these spawns on the flank last night, and this one certainly did have a fair bit of debate on it. The fact that, you know, Parasite was saying it's effectively a 1 in a million. So this situation you can see on the minimap here in the bottom left-hand side. This is a rotation over towards that P5 hill. You've got a guy from Dallas Empire, that being number 8 in Vivid, spawning all the way out, and number 4 in Hydra has just spawned all the way in the back. So interesting stuff. This type of stuff can tend to happen. The spawn that's I'm pretty sure, who is it? It's Crimsix, yeah, poor man, spawns out right here. This is an incredible spawn, to be honest. The fact that Hydra spawned right behind him, and then Crimsix, just after this hill pops, it decides it's going to spawn him here. Realistically, where else can he go? I guess he can go out on the other side or something, but you've got number 3 and Matt kind of looking over towards that direction. So for some reason, because Hydra spawned back here, which is an understandable spawn, it's just really crazy timing, the fact that the hill happened to pop at this precise moment and therefore anchored the spawns in this particular way. So strange stuff certainly, but Crimsix ends up getting in the shot in the back right here. So this was not ideal by any means, but it wasn't necessarily the sole reason why they lost this map. Later on in the map as well, there was some discussion right here, the fact that, okay, you've got these New York guys over on this side of the things, and then you've got to this situation where the 2 Dallas Empire guys spawn in the back, and then things kind of get chaotic and the New York guys spawn out over here. Not exactly sure what he's getting at right here, because it doesn't seem to be anything spectacular. Whether it's particularly helped Dallas Empire or hurt them, it is somewhat tough to say. So a few interesting situations, most certainly in terms of spawns, and Crimsix frustrated with it, but, you know, to me it wasn't necessarily the reason they lost the series, right? You look at the overall statistics, as Beastball Josh says, someone get Crim a new headset, that thing just got straight up Dashy. He kind of put it on back again afterwards, and then he was looking at it thinking, okay, is this thing broken? Do I have to get a new one or something along those lines? So, you know, unfortunate really to see for the Dallas Empire guys, but across the board, these are the statistics you get, right? And it was Vivid and Shotzzy finally having a great series. Crimsix, well, at least in terms of damage, and ILLey in terms of damage, put up some good numbers in terms of that side of things, but in terms of statistical performances, wasn't great for the Dallas Empire guys. And to be fair, they got very close in both hardpoints, despite getting outslayed by 50 kills across both hardpoints, and Mac was a big portion of those kills that they got. Dropping 80 kills over 2 hardpoints is pretty unprecedented stuff. These series stats are pretty insane, to be honest, from the guys on the New York Subliners. 21,000 damage, maybe a new record for a series so far this season. I'm not 100% sure, but the first hardpoint he had like 7k damage with a Krieg, which is pretty outrageous to do on a Garrison hardpoint most certainly. But still, I mean, this is the inconsistencies really with the Dallas Empire, right? Like Vivid the other day wasn't great. Shotzzy's always been phenomenal these last several weeks, most certainly. But ILLey, you could argue, has not exactly been inconsistent, right? He's been consistently below average in terms of the KD standpoint, right? And I'm not sure you can accept that, because you look at some of the top teams. If I'm Dallas Empire, I'm looking at Atlanta FaZe, right? They were my main competitors last year. They were the team that we beat at the World Championship, right? If you were the Dallas Empire, you're looking at them and you're looking at their 4 guys and you're thinking, all right, all these guys are incredible. They all have incredible bailouts, and they can just win you a game at any point. And all 4 of them are basically in the running for MVP this season, right? So there's no weak spot on that team. There's no one who's consistently going to drop a below 1.0 KD. They're all ready to go at any point. And that is the concern if you want to beat that squad, is that you can't really have performances, I don't think, from your AR duo with a 0.82 and a 0.75. That's not something which the other teams have. And you know, maybe you can allow one of those on occasion if they are putting up a lot of damage and bringing a lot of intangibles, but the other piece of the puzzle just can't be dropping numbers like this, in my opinion, on a consistent basis, because you're not going to beat the best teams doing that, right? And Atlanta FaZe certainly do not have those weaknesses within their gameplay, and if you want to beat them on a consistent basis, you can't be having situations like this, despite the spawns that Dallas Empire are going through. Whether they can make any more changes for the rest of the season, it's somewhat tough to say. Of course, time is running out, right? Stage 4 is coming to a close in a couple of weekends' time. After that, before Stage 5, the roster lock happens. So you can still make substitution changes from your bench, but if you want to sign a new player from another team or get some sort of trade situation figured out, you've got to figure it out after the Stage 4 major, before the start of Stage 5, because then the rosters are fully locked for the World Championship. So not too long for these teams to consider if they want to make some moves. We talked about Los Angeles Thieves as well. I don't think they're going to be making any moves outside of potentially bringing back players that are on their bench. Slash is sitting there, Huke is sitting there. Of course, not a great result yesterday up against Atlanta FaZe, but sometimes Atlanta FaZe make good teams look that bad. This I thought was pretty funny from Breaking Point as well, the fact that Macmelt is now 5-0 against former teammate Vivid the Warrior in the CDL since they teamed back in the day. So, he was saying, come on man, pretty disappointing stuff, but he did play well, to be fair, yesterday for the guys on the Dallas Empire. This as well from the subliners I thought was pretty entertaining, right? They do a great job on their socials on a very regular basis, and no Huke, no Nuke comes out once again. And yeah, obviously a big discussion point this so far this season, right? The fact that, okay, Huke gets dropped. Since then, they haven't looked anywhere near as good as they did, at least in this ceiling when they had Huke on the team. Whether that team was a long-term fundamentally ruined anyway because of whatever was going on behind the scenes, that is another question entirely. And still, Los Angeles Thieves is not like they look great with Huke in the team, and now he's been benched as well. But I mean, just from a number of different angles, the powerhouse that was Dallas Empire the latter half of last season, clearly not the case by any means anymore. Let's finish off the video just discussing what matches we are going to be seeing this next week. This from Turtle, right, tying the series losing record now at 10 within a single CDL season. But actually, Rokkr has the overall match losing streak of 11, with 10 at the end of last year, and then the first one this year. But still, time most certainly for Seattle Surge to break this record and to go one better. And this week, they have a great chance of doing so. So they play OpTic first of all. I mean, Seattle Surge right here, that's going to be a tough match for them by any means. Then they play Paris Legion later in the week. So some good matchups coming up this week. Most certainly think there's some really exciting ones here. Actually, Empire versus Mutineers is a massive one for implications down in that Group B. And then a New York versus Ultra is a match I've been wanting to see for a very long time at this point. And then OpTic versus Thieves should be a banger as well. Last time the two teams played each other, it was Thieves who had this same lineup they have right now that beat OpTic 3-1. Then, of course, since then, a lot of things have changed with that lineup. OpTic have stayed the same and probably right now look like the stronger team. Intrigued to get your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube because I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And I'm growing the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.